Thanks for tuning in to another episode of S&M Radio. I am Shannon.
And I am the M, Mark.
This episode is The Boy.
Ooh, The Boy.
The Boy is the second of our S&M radio outings to the movies. I think that's going to become somewhat of a regular occurrence on this show.
Yep, as long as they keep putting out some good horror movies.
I would like to say right off the get-go that I was anticipating this to be a stinker, but I walked away really liking this movie.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it was, I went into it thinking it was going to be, I don't know if I'd say stinker. I think I'd say like very meh. But I actually liked it. I enjoyed it. So it's not like it's definitely not like a favorite, and maybe maybe it'll grow on me as time goes on. But I definitely really thought this was a good one.
As I mentioned to you when we were at the theater last night, if there's any freaking animated gingerbread men, I'm out.
Yeah, we didn't get any gingerbread men. We did get a doll though. A pretty cool doll. I think he was made of porcelain or something too.
And he wasn't animated. So
he wasn't. Oh yeah, he wasn't animated. Wasn't that awesome? Like even like in that last Chucky movie, which was, speaking of doll movies, was a great Chucky movie by the way. But even his face had some CGI I think in it. But this one, no CGI. This was old school, back to the basics kind of suspense horror. I thought it was really good.
It was good. It really was good. So we went with our children, our teenage children.
Our youngest children, which happen to be teenagers, which is crazy.
It is crazy. And we actually went to this movie because off of the suggestion of my youngest daughter, who just turned 13, and she is a huge Walking Dead fan. And, of course, the starlet of this movie is none other than Lauren Cohan.
Who happens to be British, and I had no idea.
She is British. And you guys might know her from The Walking Dead. She plays Maggie on The Walking Dead. And then she also has a couple other recurring roles, although I don't know how recurring they are anymore after The Walking Dead success that she's had. But she's from The Vampire Diaries and Supernatural and Chuck. And the one thing I would say about Lauren Cohan compared to some of these other younger people that are coming up in Hollywood, Lauren is in her mid-30s. She's just turned 34 just a couple of weeks ago. So of her being, by Hollywood standards, advanced age, she's doing pretty good, I would say, at least anyway, in Hollywood.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, she was great in this movie, too. I thought she did a great job.
She did. I had heard when the movie first came out a couple weeks ago, I read a couple of posts that pretty much said, oh, stay away from it. It's your typical supernatural thriller, blah, 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 this and that. So I kind of had a preconception, even though we had been planning on seeing this pretty much since before it came out, that I was going to go and we were going to talk about it afterwards, and we would pretty much be giving it the terror train treatment, to where we were just pretty much ripping it limb from limb and all this other stuff. But as it got into it, I was pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, I really did like it. And doll movies are very difficult to do. Actually, it seems like it's almost like the shorter ones, like if you do a short story with a doll, it can turn out pretty good. But to do a full feature based upon a doll, it's difficult because you got to, you really got to carry it. The characters have to be interesting. There has to be enough suspense and all of this. I think Child's Play, one of the more successful doll films, and I know we talked about that one in a previous episode. But when you look back, there's really not many out there. There's a lot of kind of more B movies with dolls, but it's a difficult genre to, subgenre to master. I think back at some of the best doll, episodes, whether it be on TV or movies or whatever. And, I think of like Twilight Zone had a few good ones. I think I talked about it previously. Actually, this movie actually reminded me very this seemed like an extended long feature version of the independent short film called The Dummy that I think I brought up in our Child's Play episode. That was like, where there's a woman alone in an apartment and it's raining outside, and she's alone with this dummy, and the dummy's like kind of moving in different places when she, goes into a different room and all of that. And so it kind of reminded me of that, but they take it to the next level with a deeper story, which was kind of cool.
Outside of the doll in this movie, which was Brahms in this movie, or Brahmsy as
that's right,
the Greta character would call him. You have Chucky, which we'd already touched on a little bit. Of course, you have Annabelle, which is the pop culture spooky doll of the day.
Yep, I haven't seen that one yet either. I gotta watch that one.
Outside of those two, I think you're pretty hard pressed to find a horror talking doll. I have a couple examples here, of course. I think outside of the Chuckies and the Annabelles, probably your next closest one to being a pop culture icon would be the talking Tina from the Twilight Zone series.
Yeah, that was a good one. That one stuck with a lot of people. Then do you remember that film Dead Silence?
I was going to bring that one up too as well. Yeah, that was even though I don't know if the doll necessarily is the spotlight of that one, but to me, that was one of the most modern, like kind of freaky doll type movies. That one scared the shit out of me. And
that get you?
It did. It really did. Of any modern movie in the past like 15 years, anytime anybody says, "Oh, so you watch a lot of horror movies, anything ever scare you?" Dead Silence scared the shit out of me.
That was a good one.
And I will tell you exactly why that one scared the shit out of me. And it's the complete opposite of what a lot of movies get credit for. Because a lot of times what will happen in not just the horror genre, in movies in general, is they will always get credit for, the dude that did the score to this movie did it perfectly. He set the tone for every scene. In Dead Silence, what happened was the complete opposite. Rather than you would have the eerie music coming up to the scene and like building up to when the jump scare happened, you had silence. And it was freaking creepy because you'd be like, oh, it's completely quiet and he's walking through the hall. Why? Stop. It was just like, it was like, you always hear of these people that say that, they sat in a padded room for 3 hours, and by the time the 3 hours were over, they were just going crazy. It was that kind of like silence. It was just silent.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned like the sound or the lack thereof. Like I always anytime I think of a doll movie, and actually one of the scariest things ever was I go back to this thing I watched I was a kid, and there was this USA Network used to do this horror movie thing every Saturday night called Saturday Nightmares, and they would play these tiny little short independent horror movies, and one of them was The Dummy. Like the soundtrack they used was like the best way I could explain it is like when you have a nightmare, the way life is like goes when you're in a nightmare, like somebody's chasing you or something weird's happening. The soundtrack really captured that feeling of, oh my gosh, I'm in a nightmare. I remember that's why it terrified me so much. It just felt like, oh, this is so creepy. And that doll little short film was the scariest. And this actually, I almost thought that like the people who wrote this or directed this film kind of took from that and kind of made it like, okay, how can we make it like an almost 2 hour long movie based on a dummy or a doll or, and I think they did a great job.
The other modern day doll or puppet I guess there's two of them really. So you had Blade from the Puppet Master series.
Oh yeah, the Puppet Master series. I forgot about that. I wasn't even thinking about that.
Yeah, so there's Blade is the main one, of course, from that.
Yeah.
But the other big one, which probably kind of has died off a little bit, is Billy the Puppet from. Do you know which movie series he's from?
Billy.
He often gets confused or mislabeled, kind of in line with the Frankenstein monster. Because, a lot of times the people will see the Billy doll and they will go, oh, that's the Saw guy.
Oh, his name's Billy?
Yep, Billy the Puppet. He's the tricycle riding.
I did not know that.
Bullseye, cheap makeup wearing.
I love the design of Billy the Puppet. Yeah. I think I'm a huge fan of that original movie. I haven't, sequels were kind of hit or miss for me, but that first movie, the imagery, Billy he was great. Absolutely.
Yeah, the Saw original movie is one of the most disturbing movies of the 21st century, I would say.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That one put me. That was one of those. I saw that alone in the theater, and I remember being like, "Wow, holy cow! I can't believe I just saw that."
I saw it. I can't remember if it was it wasn't the first one. I can't remember if it was part 2 or part 3, but up until I want to say 3 or 4, they were all pretty much like, what the hell did I just watch?
Yeah. Yeah, then I took my wife on my birthday to see the second one.
That was a mistake right there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, she's not into horror movies. Yeah, I guess with this movie, The Boy, I think if I was to really knock this one around a little bit, I would say I'm trying to bash this movie here, but I can't think of anything to bash it with.
I know, right? It's the one thing that me and you should have really taken away from this movie, bashed it on, was we went, 3 weeks after it opened, 4 weeks after it opened, and there wasn't a ton of people there last night, but we did go at night. There, we went at a 5 o'clock showing.
Yeah.
We're almost 40, folks. That's nighttime for us.
Oh, yeah.
And there was probably 20, 30 people in there, I want to say, by the time it started up. Me and you were probably the oldest people there. I mean, it was a bunch of kids there, honestly.
Yeah, I was actually surprised about that. Because when we went there to see Krampus, that was Sunday afternoon. There was I think it was you and me and a couple of crickets in the theater.
Right.
And there was no cars there. And it was does anybody know this place is even open, this movie theater? And then this one, we got there and we pulled up and the place was packed, and I was kind of surprised about that. And then
by the time the movie started, one of the things I was thinking of was oh, it's going to be another teeny bopper, stupid movie. It's going off of the success of Walking Dead and blah, blah, blah. And then it started up. The one thing I will say from the very start of the movie, anybody feel free to, dispute me or contradict what I'm saying, but the one thing that I kept thinking throughout the entire movie from the very get-go of the movie was, well, this is kind of original. So, okay, we have the common themes. We have a doll. We have sort of the supernatural aspect to the movie. You have the very attractive girl who is by herself, and you have the attractive male who is trying to help her out, and she's in trouble for one reason or another throughout the entire movie, all the way from the very onset of the movie all the way to the very end of the movie. In my personal opinion, it was very original.
It was. It was really good.
there was a few times throughout the movie where I was kind of like, oh, it's good. I'm enjoying myself, but this isn't a horror movie. We're not going to be able to talk about this movie. But then a few things happen throughout the movie, and I was like, oh, so, okay, we're going that direction now. Okay, well, now we're going this direction. So, I mean, in completely different horror genres. So it started off as one thing, and then kind of went into another area, and then ended up in another area. Not to give anything away from the end of the movie, the only thing I would say is it did go a couple of different directions.
It did, yeah. I was actually surprised where it went, because I was thinking it was going to be a certain kind of movie, and then it turned out not to be.
So I think me and you had two different viewpoints as to where the movie was going. What I think happened was about halfway through the movie, you drew one conclusion, and I drew a different conclusion to the ending of the movie. What I will say about the way that this movie turned out compared to the way that I thought it was going to turn out, I'm not going to tell you what happened. Go see the damn movie, people.
Yeah, go see it. Enjoy it. You'll like it, especially if you like movies about dolls. And dolls are so creepy as they are. So, and this doll, they did a really good job with it. It's got that kind of, I don't know, that porcelain kind of look to it. I think that, the location was great. And anytime you're dealing with a horror movie, you always got to kind of judge the location, and that's part of it. If is the location good? And the location is excellent. They have this old classic castle-like house in England, and it's perfect for this film. It works perfectly, and I think the acting is great. I think the main character, she was awesome. I think the old couple were great. Kind of on the fence about Malcolm. I don't know. Something about that character kind of irked me.
He was so dreamy.
He was too dreamy. Yeah.
When you talk about the location of this movie and the scenery throughout the movie, that seems to be kind of the new theme with these new mainstream horror movies. Before we went and saw this one, we went and saw Krampus, which again kind of had the perfect setting for the movie. But
yes.
Me and the same daughter that we went and saw this movie with, my youngest, we went and saw Crimson Peak last fall, and it was kind of the same type of setting, just these really big, picturesque backdrops and this huge house and just perfect everything. So, and while it might seem kind of trendy and a little hipsterish, it really adds to the movie, I think, anyway.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I thought this location was great. And the exterior shots too, like when they're out emptying the rat traps and all that stuff, I thought, and then like the gate and the forest and all that stuff, I thought it was great. I'm glad they didn't leave the location too. Like there were a few times when they were like, the story was it seemed like they were gonna go out to town or whatever. And I'm glad they didn't do that. They kept all the shots were basically in the house or around the house. I thought that was great.
I would say I definitely give it a thumbs up. Almost probably 2 thumbs up, really.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and give it a thumbs up as well. It's definitely a recommended horror movie that's out there now in the theaters.
And the one thing that I will say about that, so this is we kind of recommended Krampus, but this is the 3rd horror movie that I have seen in the movie theaters in less than 6 months. So I think, folks, that the purpose of the S&M Radio podcast is making its mark on the world, and we are finally getting some mainstream horror out there that is good.
They're finally listening to us. Amazing.
I wouldn't say that this movie, and this is the only spoiler that I will give for this movie, but I wouldn't say that The Boy is a straight up horror movie for 3/4 of it. But then some stuff happens, and yeah, it's a horror movie. I mean, it has definitely aspects of it that are for sure horror related. So.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was a good film.
We say this every week, but we don't always mean it. We'll see you in a couple weeks with something else. But
Yes,
maybe
we will.
Maybe it'll be like last week, and we'll be back in another week. We're making a few slight changes to the show here recently. You may or may not have picked up on them, which is fine. That's kind of the purpose of us making the changes, making them just so slightly enough that you don't catch on to what we're doing. We're controlling your minds, folks.
It's called mind control.
All right,
Cool.
everybody. So we'll be back in a couple of weeks, either with an oldie but goodie or something new.
Awesome. Sounds good.